environment. No, Elvis had nothing to do with it. But the first big piece of legislation, the National Environmental Policy Act, sounds really boring, but this started this idea of the environmental impact statement. Government agencies that are going to do something need to think about what the environmental impact of a new project is going to be. So this is sort of the starting point of things that we're still implementing today. There's still policy things that are still playing out today from what seemed like a simple law at the time. The government should think about the environmental impact and write a report on it. We're still figuring out how much we're going to litigate, what huge quantities of remediation are going to come from this. Clean Air Act 1963 and extended in 1970, Clean Water Act in 1972, Endangered Species Act in 1973. At the time that they passed these legislations, they weren't seen as changing the game completely. But they created authority by Congress doing something. It's very difficult to get Congress to do anything anymore, but at this point, there was a lot of energy, enthusiasm, coordination in Congress to write legislation. And we'll walk through these legislations and see how much their impact has grown over time since the time that they were writing. So how do we get to where we are? We have, at UC Berkeley, a very strong applied economics program that happens to be in the college, that happens to be within the Department of Agricultural and Natural Resources, that happens to be within the College of Natural Resources. It's not in the economics department, in letters and sciences, not in the business school. So we have some strong professors. We have students who aren't interested in agriculture anymore, but students are interested in environmental issues. They're interested in natural resource issues. So, and we have a whole nest of society problems of needing to deal with a whole bunch of environmental issues in a way that brings in biology, brings in ecology, brings in agronomy. If we want to do conservation, we need to know about animals. If we want to do pollution, we have a whole bunch of needs to bring in chemistry and biology. So we have this major now, environmental economics and policy major, that allows people to study a track that's about environmental problems and about policy, but brings them a breadth of being in the College of Natural Resources. So what's basically within environmental economics? And we'll talk through these bullets a whole lot over the course of the class. One of the basic nuggets about environmental economics is trying to value things that are difficult to value. So we can go to the market, you can go to the supermarket, or we can go into the marketplace or the stock market, we can find specific prices for things. A lot of things we dig in really hard on environmental economics are externalities and public goods. So externalities is when the price that we see isn't the price as it affects people. There's some extra unpriced component. Clean air is being polluted. There's not a true price of clean air because people can emit the pollution they want. There's an externality that people are imposing by polluting. We need to find a way to measure that externality of pollution. Public goods, things like wildlife, biodiversity, parks. We need ways to measure the value to society of having those things. We need to allocate resources. We need to argue for resources. We need to litigate for damages. So we need ways to come up with numerical measurements of public goods. Then within environmental economics, there's also touching on natural and sort of bridging with natural resource economics, how to manage forests, how to manage oceans, how to manage complex natural systems, renewable, non-renewable, and sort of get the correct prices on these. And then finally, we need good ways to measure the impacts of policies. We're trying to protect the environment, we're trying to conserve land, we're trying to conserve species by using taxes, by using quotas, by using constraints on economic activity. And so we need to measure what's the best way to do that. What's the best way that we can reduce pollution most efficiently for the least cost? So this is sort of a framework of the different applied things we're going to get to in this class. So I want to take a little interactivity break for you guys to talk about. And maybe you guys could tell me what you think the most important environmental issues are that are going on right now. Just shout them out. We can talk about them. What's that? So Fukushima is deforestation. Peak oil. Who said somebody? Ocean? These are really specific. Global warming. That's pretty general. And ocean acidification is an aspect of global warming, so a lot of things sort of stuck together now. Anybody else? What do you wake up concerned about? Water? Well, this year, yeah. Right now, we're having an extreme drought. That's related to climate change through fossil fuels, peak oil, that we're going to run out, or that we love fossil fuels? We love them? All right. Anybody else want to, or what do you want me to talk about in class, or what examples would be good? Fracking is coming. What's that? Fracking is here. Fracking is here. It's not here to the scope that it is in North Dakota or Pennsylvania, but it's coming. Biodiversity loss. Cool, these are all good and all on the agenda. You didn't surprise me yet. Here's another, yeah? Whoa, okay, urbanization. Sustainable urbanization. We should all ride bikes all the time. So I had another way to think about it that I thought would be interesting. So I sat in your seat 25 years ago. And what do you guys think that we were thinking about 25 years ago? Before you were born, but we were still worried about the environment. Ozone, that's a good one. Smog, these are all good. Yes, and yes. Anybody else? Chemicals. Anybody else? What was like a big issue that people were protesting? Viruses. Save whales. Nice. Excellent. Nuclear power was a big one. It's interesting that somebody said Fukushima. That sort of, we forget about nuclear power and then we're reminded to think about it occasionally. Anybody else? Good? I'll show you what the bullets I came up with. I said climate change. We'll talk about that. Carbon. I think carbon and climate change are sort of the seminal thing that we need to study, and we need to. I kind of wish this whole class could just be about carbon, climate change. Fracking is definitely coming. I said organic food, but maybe that's my North Berkeley tastes. Everybody likes organic food. Food. Everybody likes to talk about food and think about food. Take pictures of food. Renewable energy. This is me maybe, but it's sort of a big topic, and it's interesting. In California, we have big sort of forward-thinking legislation on renewable energy and climate change that are specific to California, and this will be at the end of the class, but we have specific mandates in California to deal with carbon and to deal with renewable energy that other states don't have, and to the extent that California can be a leader for the country with new regulation, efficiently and well done, if we can design the policy well, it's leading towards a sustainable United States. Drought is definitely right now, so that will come in as it hasn't rained and it's not going to rain. Okay, so this is when I was in college back then. Redwoods. There was the redwood summer. Save the redwoods was really big when I was undergrad. The Amazon was disappearing. Save the Amazon, species of Amazon, which is still being deforested at the same rate, but it's another thing like nuclear power. It comes and goes from your consciousness. The ozone layer, that was a good one. The ozone layer, basically a problem. Ozone layer and acid rain were two really big problems, and we'll talk about these a whole bunch. They're two problems that haven't been solved, but they have been addressed by environmental economics. We have phased out and regulated the two key pollutants in the ozone loss and sulfur dioxide and acid rain. So we'll talk about these a whole bunch as the flag for like why environmental economics can work and address problems. Nuclear energy, somebody brought that up for sure. Pesticides used to be, now we think about organic food like it's got great things, have a great option there. We used to think about how to get the pesticides out of our food. I don't think there's any less pesticides now than then, but we have different pesticides. And smog, certainly air pollution was a really big issue. Okay, so I'm going to dive into economics now. Microeconomics, supply and demand. We're going to start with the demand curves. I'm going to do a few more slides. I'm going to switch over to writing on the tablet. So economics is a science. It's kind of fuzzy that we're a science, but we think we're a science. We want you to believe that we're a science. We're going to use math to solve problems. We're going to measure things well. And human wants are unlimited. There's an unlimited desire to consume things, to have resources, to make more things. But the resources that we have are limited. The time, the money, the natural resources, our endowments, what we have is limited. So we have a scarcity. We have to have ways to allocate the scarce things that we have. This is sort of the basic starting point for economics. What can we find in each choice? There's a trade-off. We could consume this or consume this other thing. We have to make a choice between two different goods that we want to consume. We could use our time to do a productive activity or a relaxing activity. Everything has a trade-off. We could leave the resources for future generations, or we could leave them to use them next year, or we could use them this year. Everything has a trade-off. We call the trade-offs opportunity costs. So a big one is we're going to look at what is the opportunity cost for any different decision. If we had a farm, if we had corn, we could use the corn as a direct food. We could eat it. We could feed it to chickens. We could make eggs. We could make meat in 60 days. We could make pork in 100, 200 days. We're facing trade-offs in time, trade-offs in the quality of the protein that we're going to eat, trade-offs in the price we could get for different types of protein. If we're self-employed, we're an entrepreneur, we could work that extra hour. We could go home at the end of the day to sleep, to relax, to have a life, to see people. We're allocating our time between the different things that we do in a day. We sort of start thinking about goods. Goods can be many different things, but what economics is about is sort of making abstractions, making simplifications. A basic unit to start with is some good. A good needs to be reduced to be a particular thing at a particular place at a particular time. It has to be sort of abstracted. It needs to be comparable to other goods of its type, but not unique so that you could exchange them. In the simple world that we start in, we think of firms supply goods and consumers demand goods. Consumers consume goods, producers produce goods, there's an exchange. In environmental economics, the goods can be environmental attributes or environmental services. So in this class, a good could be a wolf in Yellowstone. So we'll talk through that a whole bunch. I'm not going to consume a wolf in Yellowstone literally, but I could say I value there being a wolf in Yellowstone. I could give $100 to a conservation group so that they would preserve wolves in Yellowstone. I'm consuming some unit of wolf attribute. They could be tortoises in the desert. It could be a visit to Yosemite where I'm not going to consume anything at Yosemite, but I'm going to go there and I'm going to take it. It's going to be one of my favorite things that I did all year was that I went to Yosemite and I just was inspired by it. It could be clean air, clean water, natural beauty. Dollars, always dollars. Yep. Well, let's assume that there's a dollar value for all of those things. No, I mean, it's fine. It doesn't need to be reduced to dollars, but certainly things. When we talk about ecosystem services, we can talk sort of broadly about a whole range of different ways that we would utilize a wolf. We're not just utilizing the existence of the wolf. I mean, we can talk about this when we go to wolves, but the wolf keeps the elk out of the creek and the trees grow up, and then there's more shade on the creek, and it's a better habitat for the salmon, and more salmon are able to grow there. So we have a whole bunch of ecosystem services that are come from restoring our environment. So we could say, I want to consume habitat restoration. I want Yellowstone to be more natural, the more the way that it should be. Or you could say, there's an economic value to having salmon in a salmon stream. The salmon are gone. What can we do to restore salmon? There's different ways to come at things. Unfortunately, we're stuck with abstractions. To make things tractable, to make things work, we need to make abstractions. We need to make simplifications. There's only a couple variables that are going to fit in our equation or our graph. So we can have in our mind more complicated stories, but certainly in this class and certainly in most things in economics, the art is take things down to simplifications, down to a single variable. So I think that was that one. Yeah, we're consuming our goods in this class can be clean water, clean air. So we're going to start with the demand function. So a quantity is demanded as a function of the price of the good. The good will have a quantity. How many units of that good? There'll be a price of that good, dollars per unit of the good. And this is back to the abstraction. This phrase, holding everything else constant. So we want to freeze all of the rest of the world, have this one good that's comparable, but not unique, it's tradable, and we are going to just focus on the price and quantity of that one good. We're going to call it interchangeably. We're going to call it the demand function or the demand curve. We call it demand curve a lot because we spend a lot of time drawing it and graphing it. It's not actually going to be curved. It's going to be a straight line, but we're going to call it a curve. And then importantly, This is called the inverse demand curve. This is something that we do on the first day in economics, and we promptly stop calling it that. We think about it as quantity is a function of price. People decide how much they want given when they see what the price is. But when we draw it and when we graph it, we actually switch it around. We put price on the left-hand side. Price is related to a function about the quantity that incorporates the consumer demand. So this is actually called the inverse demand, but that's something that I'll say on the first class, and we don't really have to worry about saying inverse demand after that. All right, bear with me. I'm going to try and switch to the tablet, which may take a second. All right, that didn't work. You got to bear with me. Oh my God, here we go. Hope I can do this. So we're going to draw a lot of graphs. So we start thinking in graph terms. First thing when we get the graph, this is points on your problem set, points on your midterm, points on your final. What are the axes? Let's label the axes. Let's always remember to label the axes. Let's get there first. It'll help us think about what we're doing. So here we got. This is hard because I can't see. Price. It's hopeless. Price up there. Quantity down here. We're moving along the x-axis, more and more units of quantity. We're going up the y-axis. We got price. And our price is dollars per unit of quantity, right? It's a rate. Another way to think about it is we have units going across and a rate on the y-axis. So I want to just help us think about what a demand curve is going to be. One thing we can think about, what's our quantity? What's the thing that we're going to be trading? What's the good? So we start out with widgets. We can start out with donuts. We can start out with environmental attributes. Anybody want to say what our demand curve is going to be of today? Donuts. We're going to go donuts. OK, so we have some funny little axes here. So we're going to say that if the price starts out high, less is going to be demanded. So here we got, what do we got? 80 cents. At 80 cents, we could get, stop. 10 people would buy a donut at 80 cents. If we put the price at 80 cents, only 10 people are going to buy it. If we lowered the price and we said, OK, how about at 70 cents? Wow, well now, I missed. I need like a ruler or something. Now at 70 cents, 20 people are going to buy a donut. Remember, this is the same donut every time. There's no different flavors of donuts. This is the one archetypal donut. So we could keep going down, lowering the price at 60 cents. We could get 30 people to buy a donut. And I think you guys are going to get the idea. It's also important to remember that these people, the way we work is that we have this market price. So if the price was 60 cents, all of these people would pay 60 cents per donut. And all 30 people would pay the same price. If we think about how much money is involved, we have a rate up here and a quantity down here. So we would have 60 cents times 30 donuts. That's how much money would change hands, right? So the area here, this area, is the total amount of money that's changing hands. Dollars per unit times units, you're going to end up with dollars. So let's just say that, then it gets chunky. Then we can lower the price down to 50 cents. Now a whole bunch of people are going to buy donuts. This is why we would say it's a curve. It's not just, in this example, it's not just going to follow a line. Down at 40 cents, now we're really selling donuts. A ton of people are buying donuts down here. So this is our demand curve. We could say the quantity is a function, a mathematical function of the price. We solved it for the left-hand side. This is just in the abstract. Price, so this is D inverse of our quantity. So we have a mathematical representation between each price and how much donuts that we could sell. We could, let me go to another graph. So another way to think about it, that was sort of chunky. Another way that I want to motivate this one is like we can easily think about this as the number of people. If we see it as big chunks, we're like, this is how many people are coming to the store and paying the price. So I'd like to think about those big chunky graphs, like a histogram, as a number of people. But let's think of another way to think about it as well. We could have a whole bunch of different observations. We could just be like, think about it as gathering data. And we could go different days of the week, or to different market sellers into a stall, or to different stores on a street. And as long as we thought they were selling the same archetypal donut, we could gather data. We could say, we could think of like, the price was 80, and they only sold 10 donuts. The price was 70, and they sold 25 donuts. I'm sorry, that handwriting is so terrible. But 60. I think I need to get the iPad where I can see what I'm doing. So anyways, you could think about an idea where you're gathering some sort of data, and these would be, we could think about them as points. Instead of big volumetric things, as sort of points, data points we would have on a graph. We would have x, y points, 60, somewhere near 40, and just suppose we gathered points. The real world that we're in, it's a noisy world. It's not just composed of smooth chunks. We would go out there and ask questions, gather data. And it can be hard to measure things, right? Different things are happening on different days. We would have noise in our data, so these dots would be sort of bouncing around. But we would think, you know what, I can probably